How we doing?
So,
This is so exciting, everyone. I am super jacked for this conversation. Well, I'm actually jacked for all the conversations, but really, it's just a pleasure to be with this human being today because it's been a minute. My mom's calling me in the middle of the episode.
hey, Mom.
Did you hear that?
No,
Oh, that was funny. It just came up. My mom was calling me.
we
Cool.
love Mom.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me just do a really quick introduction for this because why not, right? That's how we always started in those get backs. It was just like a quick, hey, so this next person coming up to the stage. So we have Omar Iribe with us. Omar Iribe with us. Let me just pronounce it correctly, just because I can. And so here we are, man. It's 12 Summer Bookman, DSM. Top 15 most products sold in a lifetime, man. You were a legend. Top 15 out of 150,000 alumni. More now. That's bananas. You're in the top 3 for most personal team members recruited in a lifetime, which is insane. Nick was telling me earlier that must mean that on average per year recruits, you have the highest average in company history, which is insane. Your best summer was over 12,000 units. 20% team recruited wall of greats. I mean, just star-studded legend. Best team in units, over 26,000 units. 100% retention with that team. 17 started that summer, 17 finished. Star-studded book person up in here. Omar, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Man, it's an honor. It's every time I think about books, it's like, man, did I really do that long, that many summers? Did I go out there that many times? Well, thanks for being here and reminiscing about the past and honoring everybody that ever did sell books and put on a book bag, right? So
Yeah.
you guys
It's an
are
honor.
rock
That's
stars.
Oh yeah, so it's great to have you on, of course. And what we always like to start out the episode with is by asking Omar, what were you like, and how old were you? Like, were you a freshman on campus? Were you a senior ready to graduate? What was your story, and who told you about this book thing? And you wound up saying, "Yeah, I'll knock on a door at 7:30 in the morning."
It's actually really interesting because how I heard about it, I was at UCLA. That's where I did my undergrad. And that's where I built a team and sold my first summer. But the first time I actually encountered a Southwestern individual, I was actually doing a kind of like a multi-level business my freshman, sophomore year at UCLA. And I was already kind of building a team. I was already kind of like in that sales mentality a little bit. And I don't know, something in me, I can spot a sharp person and I can like look at a human being. I'm like, oh, that they would be good at certain things. And I remember I was at the business school at UCLA. I'm like this 19-year-old kid, right? And I look at these 2 girls. And I was like, those 2 girls look sharp. And that one, it looks really sharp. And that one, and I was like, I'm going to go approach them. And these individuals, if you guys can think about it, was Kaya Hillas at the time with Kaya Great. I went up to, I was like, those look sharp. They should be on my team.
For your MLM, what were you selling at the time? I guess
it was this company called 2x2 way back in the days. They used to do like internet services. The whole idea was that one day we would be shopping online.
And look at us talking online.
They knew something we didn't.
Love it.
And I'm very blessed for that experience because one of my friends out there just told me about this crazy, and I was pre-med at the time, wanted to be a doctor. And that's how I got introduced a little bit more into that realm of sales and business. Yeah. And I was very grateful that I got that opportunity to, get out there and, talk to people.
You had a switcheroo pulled on you. You were like, I want to recruit Kaya to my MLM. And she's like, no, you need to hear about books. Of all things, right?
Yeah, and at that time, obviously Ruthie Googans, which was another individual that had sold over 2,000 units in the summer, and Kaya sold over 2,000 units in the summer, and I was just like, they're sharp, but obviously I didn't recruit them for my business, but I was like, no, I'm good to go. Like, I don't need to do anything else, and I was really kind of like focused on what I was doing, and so I didn't sell that summer.
Oh,
and I had friends who had sold books. that had told me about it. So I had quite a bit people on campus that said, you need to go sell books. You need to do this crazy internship. And I was like, I'm good. I have other stuff going on. And I was, as a college kid, I was actually already doing, I was making good money. I can't remember how much that summer, but that whole year, I'm almost close to 6 figures as a freshman. So I was already doing well, recruiting people. I think I had, I can't remember, several hundreds of people that I had already recruited at that point for this MLM company. So I was like, I'm good. I had won a car on The Price is Right. So I had already won a car. And I was on this crazy life experience where I'm like, oh, the world. Like, just,
wow.
I was just driving this car that I had won with Bob Barker on The Price is Right.
That's incredible. I had no idea. And you just like said yes to this whole sacrifice your summer, 80 hours a week. That like took a year though. Like what changed in you? What did you see him after that summer and be like, dang, I want what these ladies do have. It's more like worth. Go ahead, take it away.
So that's the reason why I share that was because that was the reason why I decided to say, hey, I want to do this crazy job, sell door to door. I was already working 80 hours a week before I knocked on doors, and I was still doing school at the same time. So I would go to bed around 1, 2 in the morning and wake up at 4 or 5 already. So my mindset was like, I'm going to take a break and go sell books.
Step down, let off the gas a little bit.
Are you question mark? Are you said you listened to Matt's episode. He was talking about how he still has trouble unwinding from like how uptight Southwestern like books made him. Are you like, you just said that books was your way to unwind from the life that you were living already?
Oh, wow.
Correct.
Okay. And tell us the stories that unfolded from there.
So I would recruit, I would travel to like Mexico. I had teams in Canada and Philippines. Like I would like run this organization, and I would, study really, really hard. And then I would just go out and recruit and do trainings and presentations. And there was one point right before finals week, right? My second year in school. And I was like, all right, I gotta, finish strong and do whatever I was going to do. And I was from UCLA, went to dinner, and I was going to my parents' house because that's where I was going to pick up my team and go to this, meeting, like kind of like a GRS. Mm-hmm. And pretty much I was like going home, and I was super tired, from working that hard. And it was around midnight. And I don't know if you guys remember, like when you're in school and you're just like on class and you're just like dozing off as you're like the professor speaking. Well, I felt that I was driving around midnight, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I rolled down my windows. I opened my sunroof. I put like loud music, and I'm just driving on the 60 freeway here in California, going on the 15 to go home. And as I'm driving, I literally kind of like dozed off like for a second. And as I dozed off, as I was supposed to turn freeways 80 feet in the air, I go straight out. And I wake up, and I'm in the air as my car is going down. There's the other freeway, and I was like, I'm going to die. What? And literally, when they say your life flashes between your eyes, like I get the chills right now thinking about it. I literally, the picture of, my life as a little kid crossing the Mexican-American border, first time in America, going to school, all my life. And then it went all the way to my funeral. And I saw the casket, and I was in the casket, and then my mom was right on top of me crying. And I said, God, don't let me die. And it was this peaceful voice. It was like a peaceful feeling where it was just like, come home, son. Like you're coming home. And there's no voice, there's nothing, but that you have this sensation of energy. It's really hard to explain to words, but I felt that energy as like I was moving on, and I just prayed. I was just kind of like, don't let me die. Like I still have a lot to do here. And then that second, as everything is happening at the same time, I hit the ground. the motor pops like part into my car. I still have the scars. It might be a little hard to see, right? I still have like little scars here and there. And then if you see them in my forehead and everything else, but from all the dirt, the car twisting and turning, for whatever is happening in those seconds, I fly off the sunroof as I take my seatbelt off as a car spinning out. I jump off the sunroof. Don't tell me how. It just flew off. And I land on top of my Bible, which is in my trunk in a box.
What?
Whoa.
I'm bleeding, my hair, like face is bleeding. I'm kind of burned everywhere, but the car's like pretty much on fire. Like it's just people afterwards went down, see if I was okay. I crawled up into the freeway and then the ambulance came and, they like checked me out, make sure I wasn't drunk or anything. I was just tired. I fell asleep and they took me to the ambulance to the hospital and they checked on me and they did all this stuff. I had to sign all these paperwork and it got to like 4 or 5 in the morning when my parents came to pick me up and it was a crazy like emotional stuff. And then I was like, all right, well, it's 5 in the morning. I need to take a shower. I need to clean all this dirt, blood that I had all over. I didn't break anything. I had my head super swollen. So I had these things wrapped around it and I was like still bleeding. And I still had a meeting to go to. So I said, all right, let me go borrow a car. I borrowed a car after 5 a.m. to go to the meeting so I wasn't late.
What?
I still picked up the folks and I still showed up to the meeting the next day. And I tell that story because when all that happened, they messed up on like my insurance when I put my birthday in there, because obviously I just flew off a freeway. I put like 1961, 81, whatever it was for my birthday. And then they charged me all this money. I was like, I need to pay because I spent all this other money on other stuff and I need to do something more relaxing or a little bit more laid back.
Sure. Right.
While not going to school and doing something during the summer where I didn't have to go to work during the school year. And that's when my friend Donnie Nips, he sold books. He told me about Southwestern again. Sherry Samansky, she actually did a presentation for my speaking class. And that's when I say, hey, I want to do this again. I heard about it. And she kind of took me a little bit because they're all like, you should do this with me. You should do this with me. But she's the one that kind of put on the app and I signed it. So I was on her team under Kaya, but that was her first year. And that's when I decided to go and sell some books.
Wow. I'm speechless. Andres, do you have a question? Do you have comments?
I mean, very familiar story.
Okay.
Clearly. No, I'm just kidding. No, I've never heard this. This is obviously everyone's experience. So this is why everyone gets into Southwestern, to go relax.
No.
Glad you saw it that way, Omar.
Wow.
I mean, okay, so what part of the year, so this is like closer than to the end of the semester. So you went from like, you were going to this meeting, taking over the world with this company, to your ink is drying on the DA within like a week. Then it had to have been like,
so I won the car at the end of 2000, no, middle of 2001. So I used it the whole year. I heard about Southwestern my freshman year, sophomore year. And then my third year in school is when I was just like, I did this company, like I just can't do both. I can't go to school and work, full-time 80 hours a week. I need to do something different because my life was on the line, right? I was just working so hard. And that's when I decided, gosh, it was like around, I want to say March that I met Ron. So it was right before that where I was like, hey, I need to do something different. So it was my third year in college.
Okay.
So I didn't do it. Obviously I was freshman, not in my second year till my third year. That's when I decided to sell books. It took a while.
Yeah, trickle effect.
To actually decide to actually go out there and go knock on doors. And I think for me, it was more of I just knew it was the right thing to do, but it wasn't like, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, already knocked on doors, already went door to door. So that was part of like, it wasn't anything different. It was like, oh yeah, just go knock on doors. Like, no big deal.
Whoa.
So okay. It was different in terms of that.
So So then, like, what was the challenge for you? Because I mean, like, these are things that people have a problem with, right? Is like the recruiting, they're shy, they got to learn how to do that. You already knew how to do that. And then there's obviously the going door to door aspect of sales. When you came in and went through sales school, what was the things that for you were like, oh, this is new, this is different, especially coming from a company that already like sold something networking wise, right? Like, what was that? What was the thing in sales school that like kind of blew your mind? Was it Dan Moore or like what happened?
Yeah, I mean, just like knowing the people, like my friends, number one, like the quality of individual. Like I trusted my buddy Donnie, where I was in salsa class with him, and he would already knew that there was good human beings, like my other friend Erica and Cher, like just the quality of individuals. I knew it was already a good company, and they wouldn't be telling me something that wasn't good for me if they went and did it, and they're gonna come back and do it again. I knew people that didn't have a great summer, that they had a tough summer and some of them quit. So I also knew that side where, hey, it's going to be a lot of hard work. It's not for everybody. It is challenging as it is. So I already kind of knew both perspectives a little bit before going in. So in terms of like hours, I was like, that's awesome. Like, great. Like, no big deal. Like door to door. That's great. Like, let's go out there and do it. Memorizing the script, whatever, like practicing it. None of that necessarily was like a oh my god, it's something different. But I never traveled to the East Coast or been to Nashville, Tennessee, so that was very exciting for me. I love the people from that first summer. I was like, this is great. I mean, there was hard moments where I'm like, I'm not memorizing the script perfectly, or I'm not doing this, or like that kind of challenge. But I was like right away, like, I'm gonna go work hard and do well. I remember my first summer I approached, I had no idea who he was, Spencer Hayes, right? I was like, let me go approach this guy. Like, let's see what he does. I have no idea who he is, right? It's my first summer. I was 20 years old. And I approached Spencer and I was like doing my first approach, my second approach. I had no idea who he was. And he, I remember just him saying, like, young gentleman, Omar, you're gonna have a great summer. You're like, I already see it in you. You're gonna do great. You're gonna grow in this company. And I'm like, can you sign here?
I need a win. Can you come on?
Wow.
Come on, guy.
I had no idea who he was until like after my first summer and the awards banquet. I was like, wait a minute, he's the guy I approached. Who is he? And then, yeah, he was our, executive.
That's where you like got his recruiting juice and then did things with that.
Yeah.
I mean, wild. So how'd that summer go? I mean, you probably obviously killed it, but like, what did what was that? Yeah, tell us about that.
My first summer was in Hampton, Virginia, and then Chesapeake area, and then I had my roommate Donnie, and I took my car that first summer. And I had a shorter summer, about nine and a half weeks. Tons of customers, weak customers. I took everybody. I was like, everybody needs to get these books. They're amazing. Everybody should get them. So, I had an okay summer. It was a little bit above average, a little bit over 3,000 some units. So it was, 9.5 weeks. It wasn't any like record breaking, but I did well, and I enjoyed it. I spent a lot of time with families. Like, I think that was a good summer, but it was something I was like, I don't know if I ever want to do this again, right? Like I did okay, and I had a good experience, but I was like, I'm gonna do something else. But I did want to do well, and I wanted to go and study abroad in Europe, and that was kind of like my motivating factor. Like, I think after that horrific accident was like, I need to live life. That was my attitude. I need to experience all of life because my life was almost gone. So I need to fully live all my experience that God has given me, this opportunity. So that was my motivation. I sold that first summer, and I went off to Europe for a whole semester. And I was like, like, what am I gonna do now? So I came in like late May, and then we at UCLA left in June. So I literally had about 2.5 weeks. So I had no training, right? I was just like from, Sherry did a good job. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And she's like, well, we're not going to meet, but can you go and do you have anybody you can bring? So I brought a friend of mine, and Melinda. She came along and she's like, I'll do it. Sure, I'll go with you. And she dropped her job, her career, and she came out and sell books to Jersey and Philadelphia. But I think there was other more like life challenges that happen while selling books, but the whole experience, not necessarily the actual act of knocking on doors. But I did have a really good friend, somebody I had really hold dear to my heart, like right when I came that day, that had passed away. So that day I came back from Europe was the day that that person had just passed away. So there's like a lot of emotions that had happened where it's like, I was still going to sell books, but there was a lot of just personal thing probably that I didn't let out. And the book field lets it all out, right? Every emotion you can have. So there's moments where there's definitely emotional moments where, you have thinkings, the emotions, and, but I went out and sold books, and I had my first year. She finished, and that was what I cared about, that she finished her first summer. And I was like, I never want to do this again.
It was an I want to finish summer, right? Not I want to win, maybe.
No, it's not coming back again, he says.
Not coming back.
2 down, 10 more to go, no way.
I was like, that is it. No, I'm going to do something else. And I don't know if that's the best approach, but that was how like I maybe dealt with the summer. So that way it wasn't maybe as challenging, or it wasn't as like hard hit. I was like, I'm just going to do this one time and that's it. And then the third summer I came back, I finished UCLA, and I had like part of the last semester where I did recruit. No, I was still in school actually, because I took an extra year because of Europe. So I brought in 2 girls, one of my best friends now, Gallowish. And that was the first time I did a parent visit. I remember this parent visit, they were like, what's your social? Who are you? Where are you taking my girl? And I was like, I called Rob, I was like, what is this, parent visits?
Yes, actually.
And I was rooming with Dana. I don't know if you guys know Dana Pothoff. Dana.
No, but we need to have.
Dana is pretty much our #1 coach. She's the best sales coach in Southwestern Consulting. So she's the best coach of all the salespeople. She was my roommate that summer. And she sold for quite a few summers as well. And I was rooming with her, and I was like, what do I do here? It's like, I don't know how to do a parent visit. Like, never went through all that training for it. But that family, that was really hard, the dad and the mom, and I had to deal with all those situations. And they gave me kind of like a tough time asking me where I'm taking their girl or their daughter with them. And it was a kind of a by accident. Dana was her friend, Gallowish, and they were just talking about it. It's like, girl, you do not want to do this summer. This is hard work. This is door to door. This is long hours. She's like, I want to do it. She's like, you do not want to do that. It's the hardest thing. She's like, I want to do it. So it was kind of like a simple recruit. She kind of sold and recruited herself, but she finished. She had a top first year, over 3,000 units. She came back, recruited. So I think it was an accidental process of building the team. And those 2 girls started and finished. So I was like 3-3. I was like, she was coming back and recruiting full time. I'm like, well, I guess I'll do it too. Like, I'll recruit. And I think when that turning point hit a little bit was when I did bring a team. So for me, it was selling books. I actually loved it. I had fun knocking on doors. I literally loved knocking on people's doors and meeting whoever was going to be next. And I can literally I felt that I was helping these families change their lives by just showing up, even if they bought or not, that I was going to breathe that light. I was going to tell them how amazing they are as parents, how much I respected them, how great they are as just having a conversation about education. And I really felt that. And so selling books was just very meaningful. Of course, there's tough days and people yelling and all that part of it, but I don't necessarily took it personal. I was like, that's their parents. They're just opening the door to a stranger. Like, I get it. My job is to really build trust and sit down with them for a little bit. So, but the recruiting piece was where I felt that was a way to pay it forward to other people, to have this experience of going out there, doing something totally different. You learn so much about yourself knocking on doors, your strengths, your weaknesses, about human beings, communication, the people, the lifelong friends. So like I knew that the experience was invaluable. Like not even the other thing that I had done was the same. Like there's so much involved in this. So I was very passionate about building a team and bringing people to have this experience. But that's where I was like, you know what, like I need to pay it forward. I need to give this experience to other people. So that's where I was like, I need to be here. This is where I need to be. And obviously Ron Alford, a legend in itself. Like I built so much trust. I was like, I need to follow that guy. Like I was like, he's a good guy. Like I need to do whatever he's doing. And I knew that right away just by meeting him. And I was just like Nate Vogel, obviously as well. I was like, I need to follow them. And I just did whatever they told me to do. It was just like build these kind of people, recruit them these individual, and I did it my way, in a way, just like heart human to human. But it was just you meet people, you talk to people, you go to work, right? And Ron and Nate, I feel, are a little different than most leaders out there. They just kind of let me do whatever I needed to do, and they just trusted that I would do a good job.
Wow.
I brought a 10-person team, and not all of them did great. I learned a lot. It was a hard group, but they all still finished, right? And they stuck around, and I think I really learned. I was like, man, there's a lot of leadership part that I need to develop on how to help people have a good summer. I can help them not to quit, because I was like, if you start, you got to finish. Like no matter what, like there's no ins and outs. Like I'll chase you down wherever you're at. Like you're gonna finish.
The old Trey George, yeah.
Well, and
Sure, literally, that was my everyday listening for 5 years.
So good.
And like
Feeds the soul.
Perfect. That's all I listened to recruit.
I mean, like that's amazing. Just to be able to recognize that in yourself is something that, I mean, the self-awareness in that is pretty cool. I mean, was there, you said Ron was a big influence. Any other influences that were like keeping you grounded like that?
Obviously Dana, she was my roommate, and that compassion and love that she had, it was helpful. And then she came back, she skipped, I think, 2 summers, and she came back. And she was a great partner at UCLA, because she built a great team, and that's a team that I brought in 17 folks, and that was like the top #1 team in the US, right? And they all started, they all finished, and she was a huge influence, just like being a good team member, of building individuals, working on them. And you guys already interviewed Fee, right? Fee was part of that team. My sister was part of that team. Chad, like some of my best friends have been part of that team. So my whole idea that I learned from Ron, Nate, Dana, Dan Moore, of course, was just like, it's all about relationships. It's about building relationships with these parents. These parents still call me. They're just literally, they're like, when are you coming over? We miss you. You're going to be part of the wedding. You're going to be part of this. You're going to be part of that. Literally, they're still reaching out from 18 years ago, 17 years ago, because I knew that that's what I was doing. And that's something I learned from them, is like, you're building relationships. Recruiting is about a relationship business. And I feel like I got that from them as well, and how to be a good leader, how to lead from the heart, how to be service-minded. Roy Lofton, right? Lee McCroskey, just Dan Moore, just leading from the heart. So I think that's what really kind of helped those first, I don't remember what, 5-7 years of just building teams and them all finishing. That at least, and not all of them did great, but they all finished, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was just very impactful, knowing that I built trust with these individuals, that this was the best thing they could do, whatever it's happening. Even if you're like, I had a girl, she literally, her first week, Cindy, like she like broke her ankle and she was in crutches the whole summer, but she didn't quit. She stayed the whole time to help the team and supported the team. And she did well there, even like first week or two, like over 200 units. For those that know what I mean, as a first year, she was going to do really well, but she was that committed to serve and to build and to grow. So you don't
sell books just to sell books. You sell books because all the reasons why you're growing as a person, becoming more mature, more responsible, all these great things. That's awesome.
I was a little bit known for the selection process where they would all kind of cry. I knew that we're going to be good if they were crying.
No way.
Because that was it. Like, I needed to know your purpose. I need to know why you're going to do this, why you would get into something like this. Like, it's kind of like my first year would say, Omar, like, you're looking at our soul. Like, you're literally opening this up and looking at our soul. And it's like, ah, like, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to just, but I felt that was a, bigger purpose than ever I can do or provide them. I knew that there was something so much bigger.
I love that.
What did you like? You said your first 5 to 7 years in the business, right, was building teams that stuck around. We know that you got better as time went on, right? What was like the thing that switched? How did you go from retention to performance, right? Go ahead and start wherever you want to start with that.
Well, I mean, I think building a team helped me grow every single summer for like at least the first 7 years. It was just like incremental growth.
Wow.
Because I was building a team and I was, leading by example. And I had fun doing it. Like, it wasn't the easiest thing. I do remember one of my hard times. It wasn't part of my team, but I was part of the organization, right? And that was the first time I did have to send somebody home. And I think that was like my first hardest thing where I felt like, like I was like about to cry. I was about like, this was really hard for me, was to actually send somebody home because they weren't doing the job right. They weren't doing it for the right reasons. I particularly didn't select the person, but she was still part of the organization. That's where I think looking back a little bit more of like, how do I help other people into that? And I don't think I developed that huge of a relationship with everybody. Right. But that was the hardest part for me at first. And I remember Roy Lofton, he's like, that's where you got to grow. You got to send her home, buddy. Like, you got to, and that was kind of like the hardest things where I had to sit down with her and it's like, we already gave you this option, that option, and we got to send you home. And that was pretty hard, and it was the right thing to do. And as long as I did the right thing, then I shouldn't feel guilty or bad or whatever I thought I would want to feel. So I was able to, send her home. And I think that was definitely a challenge for me to experience, because I was like, she's not going to get the experience. She's not going to meet all these cool people. She's not going to be an alumni. Like, she's missing out. But, if she was hurting herself and the other people by being there, it was the right thing to do to send her home.
Wow.
So
Sometimes
wow.
I had to do that with one person. Nobody else that I recruited quit. And it's a tough feeling. So
yeah.
Wow. That must have been brutal. I do have to say here, we have some comments for you. By the way, if you're listening live, we have a few people listening live. Feel free to ask questions too. Sometimes we do this where we get with the viewers involved. So we have a couple of comments for you. Angie Quinones says, this man has done everything. Andres Carrillo said, the most interesting man in the world. You should be the next Heineken or the next Dos Equis guy, man. For real. I think that'd be... Appreciate
everybody that's on. Whenever I look back at Southwestern, it's like, I knew there was like adventures every single time. And I'll give you, some tips, not tips, but ideas of what helped me go through the summers, right? Like ideas of how I made the job fun or how I.
Yes, please. I was just about to ask you all this. Yes. Come, I'm here just attending church, bro. Go ahead.
So no, I mean, even like, when I did go through moments of like, oh, this is going to be, I'm knocking on, my belief system was like, everyone's going to buy, like kind of mad at you. I was like, everyone's going to get these books. Like, everybody should be getting these books. Like, everyone's going to buy it. I was like, I think my first 6 doors, I had sold something. The first 6 doors I knocked on, I was like, and the first person that said no, I was like, what do you mean?
That's awesome.
How are you not going to buy this? It's like, no, like, you gotta, what's wrong with you? And I think about then it became harder because of my mindset got in the way and challenges. But I just pretended there was a little camera, and I can't remember where I got this from, but it was probably one of the Sunday meetings. I was like, I'm pretending that either Ron or Dan or somebody's there watching me work. Right. And I was like, in a video, like in a movie. And whenever I had like tough situations, and I definitely had crazy experiences that first summer, I pretended it was a movie. I'm like, in a movie, you need to have all emotions, sad ones, happy ones, frustrating ones, anger ones. So I would journal, and I still carry journals with me since my first summer. I've been writing journals for 18 years. But I was like, this is part of it. This is part of why this is happening. And it kind of gave me some sanity of like, I just got rejected 45 times. This is awesome. Like, this is part of that challenge and part of that growth. And there's a lot of stuff that happened. I think even looking back, when you say the hard part of knocking on doors wasn't necessarily the hard part, there was challenging moments, like dealing with my roommate at one point where I kind of got hurt emotionally for whatever he said or did. And there was one moment in my first summer where, now that I'm thinking through it, it's like, I do remember I was like, maybe I need to go home. And I knew I wasn't going to go home, but I almost felt like I wanted to go home. And I did something that, quote unquote, we shouldn't do. And I went back to my HQ. Right. And I was like fed up. I read this book, Life is Tremendous.
Charlie Tremendous Jones. Yeah.
It's been a while since I read that book, but there was a few turning points, and I think they've all supported me in the process. But do you guys remember that part where the young kid is playing like a sport, and he goes home because he got a letter in the mail? Do you guys remember that?
I remember this story, but I don't know how it ends. So this would be good for reminding me anyway.
So, this kid, he's playing this sport and he's not that good at it. And, there's a letter that's delivered to him. He's like, I need to go home. And mom calls him home. He doesn't come back to play in the sport for a while. And then later on, the kid comes, and as they're playing their finals, right, their final game, he's like, coach, let me play. I want to play. And the guy, they're already losing. So he's more or less like, all right, come in, like, do what you got to do. And this is how I remember it, because it's been a while. But the kid actually goes out and plays and does really well and helps the team win. And the coach is like, how'd you do it? You've never really done all that. Like, you've never really kind of played this way, right? And the kid says, and I've told the story, so I'm a little bit better now, but at first it was really hard to even tell the story. But the kid says, it's the first time that my dad gets to see me play, because his dad had passed away and his dad was blind. Whoa. And that, to me, and this is just from me sharing it with you guys, that was the first time I had ever experienced my biological dad. And my dad had passed away when I was a few weeks old, like 3 weeks old. He was killed, and I never met him. And literally at that moment, when I read that book, I felt his presence. I felt his energy. I felt that he was actually watching over me. And in that point, a lot of life made sense. And I literally went out there and, went out to go to work. And I obviously did much better after that. But I did feel a lot of that energy where I had never, and I knew that Southwestern was one of those, like, man, like, there was a lot going on with human beings, with parents, met a pastor. He's like, I literally see two angels behind you. And he prayed for me. I never felt that energy before, but I'm sure you kids had stories out there with parents prayed over you, or situations that a mom needed you, or a dad needed you, or a kid needed you. And a lot of those moments happen. And I know that I sold for that many summers or whatever it is, because of all those experiences. I was like, there's nothing else on earth, I feel, that you get so much, whether good or bad for anybody, but that I was open to experience all that, Right. And so from that point, I did feel like, hey, I'm not alone at this. I've never, I'm not alone. God, or, my dad's energy, whatever that is, but that helped me go through. So I found a little bit of those moments of motivation to get me out of like, this is hard, or I can't do this, but like, hey, there's a bigger reason, there's a bigger purpose for me to be out here. And that really helped, and that kind of kept me through those challenging moments. I remember my fourth summer, my fourth summer was in Washington, D.C. area. I was in Maryland in Spring. What's that place called? Gosh. By a little bit north of DC. I want to say Springfield, but it's not Springfield. Silver Spring. Silver Spring.
Silver Spring. Spent time in Maryland, so
Silver Spring.
I was like, well, I've never been to Maryland, so I'm not sure.
Montgomery County area. And these are a little bit of more. I never kind of necessarily shared these when I recruited, but I remember my fourth summer, we found a home and we were gonna knock on our first door. And I had these first years waiting for me, and I was taking my first year Hero and Eugene. Heroes was my passenger side and Eugene was in the back. And we're like, hey, we're gonna have a great day. Life is gonna be good. It was gonna be our first door. And as I'm driving to our breakfast spot, it was raining. As I'm like, it's gonna be a great day. Crazy car hits us. All of our books, everything went out flying. And I was like, I've experienced something like this before, right? In a different way.
God.
My first year Hero, he wasn't breathing. He's like having a hard time breathing because of the airbag. The other kid is like almost crying, like, what's happening? I get off, making sure that they're okay. The other lady was like half, but she was fine. My car got totaled. My Forerunner, I had a Forerunner. This is the second car. And I remember I was like, it's 7 a.m. I'm like, Ron, it was 4 a.m. hits time in Seattle. Didn't pick up.
Sure.
Wow.
But I remember I was like, what am I going to do? The ambulance comes, they take Hero to the ambulance. So he goes to the hospital. The other kids kind of like crying out there, picking up the books from the rain, everything. Car's totaled. And I called the other first years, okay, can you guys come and pick us up? We don't have a car. And then I remember, you guys remember RAFT technique, RAFT, become a problem.
Realize.
Like, what's that technique? What are my options here? What do I do? Do I go out and cry, quit? Like, like, what do I do in this situation?
Where's that sales 101?
Yeah. And it's like, all right, you got to do what you got to do. What are my options? I can either cry with them or stop for the day, or it was like 7-something in the morning, or we can go knock on our first door. So we still knocked on our first door before 8 a.m. And I had 4 kids behind me. 3 that were going to follow me. Dang. So imagine 7:55.
Oh my
all
God.
Colors, everybody. And we just started knocking on people's door with 4 kids. We still got sit downs inside the house with 4 kids.
It was the 4th summer, four first years following you. Just
I knew it was going to be a good summer. That summer I had
you know what this means, Omar.
Oh, yeah.
Andres doesn't yet, but that's
that's another story right there. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was just like problem solving. And Ron was like, hey, you got to just keep on doing what you got to do. Hero, I picked him up at the hospital, and he wanted to go home. He was so mad at me. I was like, we're gonna go work. And he was a top first year from UCLA, saved over like 12 grand, did really, really well. Later on was thankful, but not the first 3 weeks that he didn't speak to me because I had him go to work. Rented a car the whole summer. I rented a car. I met amazing people. But it was just those challenges, right? It's like you just problem solve, like you just do what you got to do, focus on your controllables, and kind of like just, this is what happened. I can't fight it. What do I do right now? What's my next option? What are my areas? And turn that negative emotion into positive momentum. And literally that's how I trained and drank the Kool-Aid, brainwashed myself to believe, but it would work, right? Like it would go into something positive.
What you're teaching people nowadays, isn't it? A few of those things.
Exactly what I teach.
Yeah.
Exactly what I teach.
Is it like too soon to talk about how you exited Southwestern and are now still in Southwestern in the consulting sphere?
Well, and we can come back to some of these other life lessons you learn in the book field too. But if this is a good tangent to go into, I would love to hear about that as well.
Yeah, no, I think when I would sell books, I kind of knew deep in, I mean, I don't know if people feel this, but I knew like I wasn't going to be selling books my whole life, even though like I loved being a DSM and, won all these different awards and experiences. I knew it deep in my heart that it wasn't going to be forever, but I did always pray to God that to keep me for however long I needed. And I was actually, there's a few summers where I was like, I'm not going to do this again. I'm done. And there's, I think after becoming a DSM and having like the top team and winning every trip that was there, I was like, all right, I need to do something else. Right. And it was like March where I still was going to do something else. And I was going to join, I think Tom James at the time. And it was like literally 5 a.m. or so. I think maybe even early. And I got a phone call and I was like, who's calling me this early? It was Spencer Hayes directly calling me. I was like, what the heck? And he's like, Omar, I think you should stick around and, be a DSM and this is where you need to be. And I was like, I had prayed the night before, right? It's like Bible, landed on the Bible. I was like, all right, I got to listen to whatever's happening. And obviously that's why I kept selling books.
Wow.
From that moment on. And I think it was March. I started recruiting March. And by June, I already had a 20-person team. So it was just like.
You were on fire.
Wow. How? What?
Conviction.
This is another lesson I learned, right? And I teach it now in what I do, but it was just team membering, right? It's like I brought 7 people and I was like, who do you know that we can help? Who do you know that deserves to have this experience? Who do you know that can also came about? My cousin, my brother, my friend, my coworker. And from those 7 brought the rest of the team. But I think that was just like anything is possible kind of mindset, as long as we commit to doing it and just go to work and just build a team. So it was a very powerful experience where I was just like, all right, who else can we help out? And it was all about just like getting out there and getting in front of people, right? It's like I already graduated, but I just need to go out there and who's the next cool person? Who's the next, Andres, who's the next Ron Alf, or who's the next individual that can be impacted? But that's how I kept staying around for that long. And I think later on, the reason why I kind of moved on, my leader, Ron and Nate Bogle, they moved on. And I think that was part of the reason why I was there, was from their leadership, and they had both gone. I still sold and I still built a team. But once after that second year that they were both gone, I did my master's. I still was doing my master's while I sold my last summer. So I would still be a full-time student in my master's and selling books door to door. I was like, all right, I gotta have a 48, 70 person organization, but I still gotta.
So you knocked while you were getting a master's?
Yeah, my last summer. I went to get my University of San Diego to get my master's in global leadership.
Global.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's cool.
No experience in that whatsoever, though. I got it.
Yeah, right.
Jeez.
It's all theoretical. It's all from books. You wouldn't understand.
Wow.
That was kind of like my way to say I got to transition and just do something different. But it was already 12 summers in, and I had sold every single summer. And, I love my experience and the leadership and nothing but good things in that transition. And Ron was already gone, but, the leaders already knew that I was going to do that. I already had applied ahead of time, and, I kept going, and no regrets for any of it. Right. But it was just like, I needed to do something different that I was going to transition. And I, studied abroad, did all that stuff. And Ron was like, hey, we're helping people in a different way. We're still doing leadership and business. This might be a good fit. So I started Southwestern Consulting while still doing my master's. So I did my whole master's career while still doing coaching.
Wow.
And kind of like the same idea. And it just, for me, it's just like, I keep telling God, it's like, wherever I need to be next, like, show me the way, whatever I need to do, like, put whatever I need to do in front of me to best serve you, Lord, and best serve people, however way possible. So I do know, like, I let my heart out, because I know I'm here for that reason, to leave this place better than I left it, and to make an impact on people. And coaching was awesome. I mean, it's kind of like personal conferences during the summer. PCs. And changing, listening to their life, their vision, what they want to get out of their career. Similar energy, but it's about their lives, their goals, and we hold them accountable to that. And it's, you know, people tell us, you know, it's life changing, it's transforming their careers, their lives. And I loved it. You know, it was just kind of like second, it was just more of a different role, but similar in terms of what I was doing. So it was a good fit.
Do you know, Omar, how many people you've enrolled into MITT?
You know, Pat, you know, the lady Patty, Patricia, she told me when I last helped, she's like, do you know that you've enrolled more than anybody in our history of MIT?
0% surprised. I mean, I probably got recruited through the vast network of people who've
And
done
I still have people right now playing that I've just recruited, or not recruited, but building the teams. And I'm very passionate about that, because that's a mastery and transformation training. There's different programs, Landmark, other programs out there, but it's similar for somebody who hasn't sold book or sold books. It's just life-changing transformations like that. What else is inside of you that doesn't allow you to hit where you want to be at, like those blind spots? What are those moments that you want to, you know, transform?
It's effectiveness training.
Huge, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. But it's very similar. I was like, everybody needs to do this. And I think people are still doing it. Like, it's still going on. Like, I mean, 800, 1,000 more.
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Meeting a friend tomorrow. She met her husband there. And, you know, so many different
Andres, you gotta join the other cult.
Join the other cults. Hey, we do have some people listening in that are also saying hello again. We've got Shayna KC, Omar Slays, 100% fire emoji. You're being shouted out. Andres Carrillo says the car accident buddies. And then he has a question for you. He says, where does faith rank in your life, and any advice for current managers trying to move up from B's and up? And maybe not even specifically B's and up, or even in Southwestern, but just people out there who are looking to, you know, bust loose and, you know, hit their goals. What was that mentality like for you when it turned on? And maybe following up on that question.
Okay. Yeah, I think Ron did a really good job in just figuring out, okay, what is your goal? What is your vision, right? What is it that you want to do? What's that intention? In other words, what are you creating here? What's that purpose? So I think he always did a really good job, and Nate too, just figuring out what is that purpose? What is that why? Like come to, you know, those 7-step outline that we do is like, what are all the what ifs? What if this happened? What if that doesn't happen? What if this rejection happens? Just going through all those scenarios. I think that was just helpful. And that's how I train a lot of the folks now, is just like getting all of that up front. How do we properly set expectations for ourselves? How do we properly set expectations for other people? Does that make sense? So instead of like fighting against what's happening, it's like, hey, this is exactly what I need. This is exactly what's happening for me to grow. Spiritually, and faith is definitely like number one. Like in anything it's like right there. There's something for this reason. There's a purpose behind it, however small or big, but there's something that it's happening for a reason, right? But I think that part of that vision and that part of that, and I have to remind myself that all the time, right? It's like sometimes I get caught up in my own head trash and my own ego that's getting in the way of whatever I need to do. And I do know, I'm aware it's like, oh, I'm thinking about me, or I need to focus out. I need to get out of my own way from what I'm doing. And when I do get out of my own way, like magic happens, like life altering experiences happen when I'm not putting Omar, like I need to do it for myself. And I think that's a challenging situation. And at least for me, where I'm like, you know, I have a goal and I want to hit that goal, and how do I attach myself to the goal? But I also, how do I separate, you know, being attached to the result, but really putting my confidence and my beliefs in what I'm doing and my purpose and my actions and my activity. So I think that's what's been really helping. It's like, set your goals, set your vision, set all those expectations, but now how do I detach myself to the result and put myself into service or action or activity, if that makes sense, right? And I think that's kind of like what happened with MIT. Is like, man, I believe in something so big that I'm going to do anything and everything possible to share it and talk about it and make an impact. So anybody who is still selling books or building a team, I would say get your vision, set some high goals, right? Like really do that first. I got this from Spencer Hayes, right? Every time I would see him, he would pull out his self-talk and he says, you got to have amazing self-talk. I remember I met him at Tina Lou, or Tina Bedford now. She married Logan Bedford. And I was at their wedding. He would pull out his affirmation. He would read them out loud. This is his positive affirmation. So number 2, have amazing self-talk. Oftentimes, and Dustin Hill says, like, if something's happening, how's your self-talk? And that's a still, now that I'm out of the book business and not kind of doing that all day, that little chatter in the voice. I gotta create new affirmations, set up new mindset opportunities for me to grow around referrals or around scheduling, around whatever's happening, on how I can shift my self-talk, my mindset, my belief system. Does that make sense? So that's number 2. And then number 3, this again from Spencer, is just hold yourself accountable. Be your word, right? Don Miguel Ruiz, the 4 agreements, be your word. Do and say what you say you're going to do. I think if we just shared a little bit more and did more of what we say we're going to do, I think we would all have a transformed life. Like if you literally become your word is that powerful, right? The Bible said, like, you are, like, your word can make you or destroy you, right? Like your word, your mind, all that can move mountains. It's being accountable to what you say you're going to do. And a lot of what I do is holding people accountable, right? I have clients that they're like, I have all these goals, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, okay, so what are you doing? I was like, I know what I need to do. I need to call my past clients. I need to ask for referrals. I need to be on schedule. And a lot of it's just accountability. And they're like, fine, do what you say I should be doing. And then they have double, triple growth incomes and more time with their family. And they're like, I don't know what's happening. It's just everything's working out well. And they're just becoming their word more often. They're doing the things that they say they were going to do. Wow. And I think those are just the simple things, but they're just so powerful, if that makes sense. So it's just a reminder that I do for myself,
wow,
clients, and the book field.
Mm-hmm. So with all this experience, what would you say is kind of like the things outside of what Southwestern teaches that like you've kind of grown into and learned either post Southwestern or even like the same time as doing Southwestern, just in a different sphere, whether it's in my TT or otherwise? I know you just shared some really good nuggets, but like what's a soapbox that you'd like to get on for the next maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we can start wrapping up with some ponytails.
So one thing I got from Ron, and just even looking at my vision board, right? But it's like, I remember my mental mindset, I always said, okay, how do I, Spencer said, it's like, where can you earn the most? Where can you grow the most? Where can you give the most, right? Like that kind of mindset. How can I grow the most, earn the most, give the most, learn the most, right? And one of the things that Ron inspired me to do, and other folks too, but it's just to go running. So I started running with Dan Moore and just doing half marathons and full marathons. And I think that was my other area where I learned a lot about life, was just in those races and training for those races. Gosh, I've done at least, my goal is to do 10 in 10 different countries, either half or full marathons. I've done several in the US, LA Marathon, I've done in Canada, Australia. I did the original one from Greece, in Greece, from Marathon City to Athens.
No way.
Original
That's
marathon.
So cool.
I learned a lot there.
Awesome. That's incredible.
Puerto Rico, I did the Cuban marathon in Havana, going through the whole crazy old Havana and, experiencing the whole history behind that. And then I did the hardest marathon at the time considered in the world. I was like, I'm going to go all out. What's the hardest one in the world? And I went to do Machu Picchu.
Ooh, I've been to Machu Picchu, but not in a marathon context, and it's beautiful.
So did you do the hike? Did you go from the Sacred Valley to Machu Picchu?
I wish. That's next time. I was with Andres' younger brother Danny, and we all went to Aguas Calientes, beautiful spot there. Did you stay there by chance when you went to Machu Picchu?
Just down in the village?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Funny story, when I was in Peru, I saw these rainbows and it was their flag. I was like, oh my God, the whole country's gay. But
Right?
it was different.
So
Just brought a memory over. I was like,
did you go to the Rainbow Mountains down there? Have you
no,
seen those?
I don't think so.
Oh my
Talked
God.
about that on last episode, actually.
Yeah,
And, Andre shared a picture. That's funny.
Have you heard of them?
I can't remember. No, no.
So just to let you know, it's just a cool mountain that has
Yeah.
like minerals stacked in such a way that it has rainbow colors. So it's like gorgeous. We'll send you a picture too.
I would love to see it. I would love to see
Rainbow
it. I do want to
Mountain.
go back.
It's at 11,000 base elevation. It's ridiculous.
It's a climb, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. And I think that was a little bit of that learning point where all of MITT, all of Southwestern kind of worked in. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. I've never been there.
Yeah,
No,
that's Rainbow Mountain for you.
that is so cool. Well, that gets it added in my bucket list.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, it's awesome. It wasn't discovered because the snow hadn't melted yet. So global warming, unfortunately, melted the snow. And then it revealed the colors. It got discovered like maybe 5 years ago or something. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, so maybe that's why I was 2016. So maybe right around that
Just
time.
starting to be discovered. Yeah, it was like
I
brand
actually
new.
didn't even realize that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I got to go because it was new, and the buddy I met up with there, he's like, "We're going to this," and I saw it. I saw a picture. I was like, "We are not going to be."
What part is it in?
It's right next to Cusco. So when you go, you get to Cusco, right? And then I didn't do the hike. I did the train because that marathon you did, I did not do that. But I did the climb from Aguascalientes. And then when we went back to Cusco, he goes, "Dude, remember this?" And happened to find, we went door to door, the whole thing. That's a whole different story. And we found this person that could take us. And so they were like, "We can take you today. We could take you to Rainbow Mountains. Sorry, tomorrow, but we have to leave at like 4:30 in the morning because by the time we get there, you can by the end of the hike is blah blah blah." And we were like, "Done, let's do it." Went and yeah, it was the top. It was like 5,342 meters. It's like 14,000 some odd feet. It was up there, man. It was, but it was insane.
So cool.
Yeah. I'll send it to you when we're done here. They're pretty cool. But anyway, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, no worries. That's so cool. Well, I live by experiences, right? Any kind of experience that you have, I think that's part of life, is like to have as many life experiences as possible, right? It's like
live life.
100%.
We got one that you know of, right? And we're just lucky enough to be here. So let's do it to honor and praise, right? What would you say is like the thing about running that people don't quite understand until they do it? Because I'm not a runner.
I mean, I think before I started running, I think the most I had ran like 3-5 miles, right? Where it's like, okay, I was good. I did a little bit of cross country in high school, but that's about it. For me, I remember talking to people and it's like, you got to know the reason why you're running if you're going to do a full marathon. I just went from 3 miles to, doing a full marathon. And it's just having, again, the purpose is like, why do you want to do it? What's the reason behind it? And why is that important to you? And for me, it was just to elevate my level of consciousness and get closer to God and just really build that relationship. So that was the reason behind it. It's like going through the emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, all those like different levels of yourself and pulling through the challenge, right? And that's why I felt like I was like, what's the hardest one, right? And obviously because of elevation and you're running up a mountain, right? There's like 5,000 feet that you're just going straight up for a long, long time from the Sacred Valley up to Machu Picchu. And I thought I had trained for it. I was like, I wore a mask before the masks are everywhere. Those oxygen ones that limit your intake. And I live in LA, right? So I try to do as many little mountains as possible here. And I was like, I'm ready, I'm trained and super excited. And then we did the trainings around Cusco and I was able to breathe really well. Some people got hospitalized right when they got there, just going up the stairs because it was, the elevation. But I felt really good. I was like, oh, that's going to be great. I got this, right? They give you little coca leaves when you land and all that stuff. And I remember just doing the practice and I just mentally prepared. And when we started in the Sacred Valley, they're like, it should be good. It usually doesn't ever rain around this time and everything's pretty well. And I didn't train. We started like at 4 a.m. It's pitch black.
You didn't really train in the morning, is what you're
In
saying.
the dark, like pitch black, dark. No, 5 a.m. I was good to go. There's light. But we started pitch black. We didn't have like, I was like, why do we need a flash car? Like a flashlight. Oh, I'm glad I brought that. I tripped. I had to go up like stairs. You're like almost falling into a river. So that was already a challenge right in the start. I was like, got it. All right. Like mentally getting ready. And then if you didn't hit certain marks, you would have to do an Incathon, which is 18 miles instead of the 26.2 miles.
Huh.
And that was my goal. Like I came all the way over here, prepared for who knows how long. Like I got to do the full marathon. So I barely made that little cutoff. So a lot of people didn't do the full marathon, just did the cutoff to join the full marathon club, because then you have to finish at a certain time to reach Machu Picchu, which is a park, right? They close the doors like at 3 or 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And if you don't make it, you have to, spend the night. You got to camp out in the mountains at certain areas. And I was like, I am not going to camp out. Like I want to go to Aguascalientes and get a nice hotel, whatever. And there's so many different experiences. I remember once we started going up, and there's, a lot of your friends that you've met through there, they would like be with pain, and they're like on the road, and just like a lot of self-talk, mental, they kind of prepare you how to do the road trip. Remember, it's a 4 to 5 day hike normally.
Yeah.
Our goal was to do this at least in 1 day. If not, you would have to do it in 2 days. And
That's
you would do
wild,
the
man.
Incathon.
Oh my God.
And there was like, I'm ready, blah, blah. And then right around a few miles in, we're going up this mountain. It's literally like you're just going straight out like for 5,000, like from 8 to 13,000 feet.
Is that like after you go through Aguascalientes?
Well, it's kind of Sacred Valley. So Aguascalientes is on the other side. We started differently. So it's kind of like
Okay.
It's
So, but
completely
it's
different.
so it's when you reach the base of the mountain, of the Machu Picchu mountain.
There's I
And
can't
it's just
remember
straight
the
up
Walla
hike.
Walla. There's a whole bunch of other.
Yeah.
And
But
that's
the main
one.
one that the park is on is like the one that you go
It's
up.
lower.
Yeah.
That one's way lower than the actual one, because you go down a lot when you get to Machu Picchu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You go down like
Machu Picchu,
5,000
like 7,000
feet
elevation. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
From
like
where
way
you were.
down.
Oh my God.
Machu Picchu
that's
is
so
like
wild.
way almost twice as high when you run through it. And it started raining, hailing, and snowing. I'm in LA. I was not ready for that.
Mhm. What time of year was it?
It was in June, which is a little bit of their different time out there for us.
Yeah, right. That's true.
And there was those moments of like, I'm not gonna make it. I didn't want to quit, but I'm like, I might die. I slipped a few times, hurt myself. Like there's all those moments where it's like everything came crashing at you. And I was like, that was again, getting back to self-talk, getting back about my intention, getting back to everything I've ever learned. But I think it was just at that moment, I was just like one more step. I can do everything one more step. So I think that was my experience in running, is like, just kind of focus on my breath, like literally focus on my breath. Just reminded me of doing a 10-day meditation that also impacted me. Silent meditation for 10
He
days.
talked about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Vipassana. But I remember that incorporated in my running, and then obviously never quitting from Southwestern, and then just one more step. And I just learned a lot about myself in that journey of like, I could do it. And there's a lot of moments where I got to finish strong, right? Like that mindset, I got to finish strong. I remember Charlotte O'Mara, just finish strong. And I was at one of the last links, and they're like, I'm like, how far am I to the finish? They're like, it's about 2 hours, but they're going to close in 45 minutes. And I was like, I got to do a 2-hour run, and 45 minutes are going to close a park. And I don't know if you ever remember, but when you're doing the hike, they have like these runners. These are experts, like people that run with big, heavy backpacks.
They live there. Yeah.
They live there. And that's part of their journey.
Yeah.
And they usually would, I'm like here, and they would go floom, floom, like all the time. Like they would pass by me way faster than what I was running. And I was like, I got 45 minutes to do a 2-hour span. I'm like, I'm not going to sleep up in the mountain. I'm wet. I'm literally soaked from every possible angle. Super wet, super soaked, freezing. There's so many emotional moments. Like I cried more in that race than any other race, just going through so much of life, experiencing the nature. So many emotions came out, so many. so many emotions throughout that journey. And I remember I was like, I kind of put on my like finish strong mindset. This is I gotta, gotta win. I'm gonna win. Just kind of like that. I gotta win. I'm, just putting in that mindset of getting out there and finishing strong. And I literally ran like I've never ran before. It was going down, so it was a bit more dangerous.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know how I go, but just thinking about it, I remember almost like going so fast, I would like fly past the people that were runners. I would like grab a tree, like turn out. I felt like I was a cartoon. It was muddy. I would go flying out, and they're about to close the gate, and I like barely made it in there. And I was just like crazy. Yeah, but I think that taught me a lot about life where I could implement it, and obviously running and doing that. And I went dancing that night. For those who know me, I still went out and partied after that race of 11 hours. It took me a little bit over 11 hours. So I still did it in that 1 day mark. So
my God, Omar.
Pretty excited about that.
Go I see. I don't even know, bro. That's wild, man.
That's wild.
Is it time, Andres, for some pony stories? The pony story. I'm not sure if you've got a like showstopper type story, Omar, that you could finish out the rest of this episode with.
Yeah, I think we need to have you on again for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's just more that we need to hear about. But yeah, let's hear. I mean, it's what time is it for you over there, Omar? It's 6:45. So yeah, got time for either a solid pony story or type of crazy sizzler fun story, or maybe time for 2 middle length ones. It's up to you.
Man, there's so many things that come to mind. Give me an idea. Give me a little breakdown so I can kind of pinpoint.
Well, so Brandon Q, and this is good for our listeners now. Brandon Q talked about the time that he went to jail. That's episode number 3 or 4. Yeah. So that's a good one. We heard a couple good sizzler stories from Shane Hertig. Matt Atchison just gave us a couple of moments in his Southwest career that, like, without which he doesn't think he would have had the success he currently has, which of course we know he's super successful. So yeah, or it could be, we haven't really had somebody give us a story of a time where there was like a parent or a person that was just super rich and they bought a ton, or like we haven't had one of those.
Yeah, no true ponies
yet. Yeah. So you could give us one of those, and then we can have you back and tell us even more, like the time about when you went to jail, or another time if you have like one that, or maybe like a pony where like a true pony where you're like, man, and then she bought, like that Bill Zizzy David, she's like, and then she gave me $900 or whatever, you know what I mean?
There's a lot that I can
imagine you sold 12,000 units in a summer, so you gotta have a couple.
But and this kind of ties up also, Nick, what we talked about. I think maybe I'll just share something that kind of gave a trajectory of another life moment, that I feel like there's these moments in my life that shifted so many different things. And a little bit about, second summer, you should stay on schedule. But I remember my second summer, right? I'm knocking on doors, doing whatever I got to do. I was in Mount Laurel next to Cherry Hill in New Jersey. And, after coming back from Spain, I was still doing okay, right? Like I wasn't breaking through crazy numbers. I was still hit, 400 or 500 here and there for, if you guys remember, units. But I remember one of the I knocked in, the lady's mom was like, hey, I'm just a college kid, right? From back in California. Telling, sitting down with all the family, and she's like, you're not just a college kid, you're a businessman. And she would like talk to me that way. I was like, okay, I'm a businessman, right? Sure, whatever you want me to do. Do you have a place where we can sit down? And she sat down next to me, and when she was talking, she was looking at my book, but she's like, you got to do this other kind of program and leadership. And in my head, I'm like, she's trying to sell me multi-level. She's trying to sell me some business deal. And I was like, well, do you have kids? She's like, yes, I have kids. They would love these books. Yeah, I'll, sure. And she's like, hey, I wanted to invite you to do this meeting and blah, blah. And I was like, girl, I got to knock on these amount of doors. I got to do 30 demos. She was like, well, how many books do you sell in a day? I was like, a lot. And I added like 100 unit bag, like 100. I was like, I saw all these books, right? She's like, oh my, okay, well, if you come with me, I'll buy them. It was at the time, I think it was like 800, 900, close to $1,000. And I was like, all right, I'll come. I'll do whatever it is. And it was like 5:30 p.m., but I did my 30 demos. So I actually went crazy and I knocked on all those doors, showed the books. I did, everybody saw it. And I came to, she, like what, 21 years old. And she took me to this meeting. I was like, she bought all these books. I got her check first. She signed up. I was like, all right, whatever it is. And I had no idea where she was taking me, right? She was just so excited about it. And I was like, well, she's so excited about it, at least I'll check it out. And it was a landmark forum, a landmark forum in Philadelphia. And I was like, that was kind of like the first time I heard about transformation. And it was like, what are the things that you don't know that you don't know? What are some of those blind spots? What are you willing to create? And that was like, I'll do it. I signed up. It was like a deposit, whatever. And I did create. I was like, I create the possibility of selling PC and being a top. And I started selling PC. That's part of my second summer. So I did do Landmark, and she obviously loved the books, and she was so excited for me. And I had a great summer. And I grew from my first summer to my second summer. And I came back and I did do Landmark. And that was one of those turning points in my life where I created a possibility of becoming straight A's. I created a possibility of having a top team. I created all these possibilities of being self-expressive and living my life the fullest, right? I think it was a lot of buildup. But I remember that was one of the hardest things I had ever done in my life, even more than selling books every single summer. And for me, and I know we have different types of listeners, but that in Landmark, if anybody's familiar, similar to all these transformation trainings, but it was more about letting yourself, like whatever you have to deal with, you're dealing with it in the moment. And for me at the time, I hadn't been out. I was in the closet. I hadn't told my parents, my mom, and I grew up Jehovah's Witness. So everybody was just super, in faith. And I just knew there was something missing inside of me, and I created the possibility of being fully expressive, self-expressive. And that was the hardest thing for me, like literally calling my mom, telling her that my sexual orientation and who I was and whatever that is. And literally when she was like, I love you no matter what, like that feeling, I felt like all that weight that I had carried on my whole life lifted off me.
Wow.
And I told my stepdad, my dad, he's my stepdad, but he had belittled and said really bad things about, in Spanish, gays and all that. And it was really hard to even talk to him. But when they fully accepted me and they loved me, embraced me, like my whole life kind of transformed in terms of like being who I was. And Southwestern always accepted me. I never, ever had any issues whatsoever. And I felt I could be myself, who I was, and selling books. But I think that moment of knocking on someone's door, somebody on the other side caring so much about their experience, willing to kind of take me on, and, having that be another trajectory, life-changing trajectory is not like crazy that she bought all these books, even though she did, or any crazy stories of being in jail, or we can go on and on and on. But it was just that somebody's heart was so big that she would be willing to buy anything and everything just for me to get something that was so amazing for her. If that makes sense.
She essentially paid $1,000 to have you change your life.
Yeah.
That's
incredible. I think it was like 800 something bucks at the time, but yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was like a pony story where she and you were the pony.
Everybody
Double
else.
pony.
And everyone else afterwards that, I felt like that kind of work was a huge part of my life. So I was very blessed. So yeah, it was
wow.
You never know what's going to happen as long as you're open and really letting that God, the universe, life kind of just share its unfolding of what it needs to teach you.
Unfold, baby.
Preach. This has been Church with Omar Iribe, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, we can that's a good stopping point.
I think I agree with that sentiment. This has been an honor and a privilege, and we're definitely gonna have to stay in touch now. We're gonna have to share, Andres. I want to see those pictures of you at Rainbow Mountain and all these other cool things. Definitely want to have you back on another episode. We're trying to figure out how we can like make this fun and kind of take different slants and specials to it, and have people who work together, people who were brothers and sisters that both sold books, or family members. There's lots of cool ways of having episodes on the docket. So
I wanna have an episode with you, Omar. I was gonna ask about this and I didn't get a chance, so for sure we need to have you back on. But I wanted to hear about your experience as a Latino man in the book field, because I just want to see what connections there might be in that as well.
Yeah,
And,
that's yeah. I mean, I would love to talk to you. I think that's another life impact where it's like how to and there's a whole focus that I had while selling books in that piece for sure, brother.
Yeah, so that'd be good to hear about it as well. Nick, as far as announcements, do you want to share with us who's up next, and then I can talk a little bit about sponsorships and stuff as well?
Yeah. So up on Sunday, we've got on March 28th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Central time, Will Metcher and Andy Laws, old roommates and business partners, and it's going to be a great episode to hear the stories they both shared and can tell about their own experience. After that, on April 1st, is my old roommate, Andre's current roommate, Colin Appel. He's like one of the funniest people I've ever met. Great inside jokes that he and I have. We'll have to translate a bit of that. But we're taking Easter off on the 4th. And then we're coming back on with Jordan Ortmeyer, Amanda Q, previously Peterson, and Elena Arendt on the 8th. We've got a few more coming in, and we're trying to make sure that we can get more book ladies on the scene, because it's been pretty male heavy. So if you got any book chicks out there that would tell some awesome stories, we're open to putting them on the spotlight. So it's a great slate of episodes ahead. And Andres, talk about these sponsorships we're looking for.
Yeah, a couple of things. If you're listening, whether it's live or just a recording of this, please share and to alumni, share to people that you think should listen in, that would be either a good guest or that could get a lot out of these things. We've tried to have a variety of like what we talk about. Like last time we were with Miles Ham, and we got into a whole bunch of different topics, from insurance to aliens and all that stuff. But then sometimes we have episodes like this where there's just a lot of added value for people. So first of all, if you're having fun with this, help us out, share away. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. So share whatever platform you're listening. That would be a huge thing for us. Second thing is, we are getting a lot of traction. Believe it or not, we've had a lot of support, weirdly enough, and the numbers are growing in viewership, and the reach that we have is starting to grow well. Really well. And so there's opportunity to plug your business. So we're looking for sponsors. If you know anybody that would be interested in either per episode or to plug a specific company or a specific cause, we're doing that. We would love to do that for you. We are getting some people listening, and the traffic has been really awesome. So that's great. And then we're also starting a Kickstarter for anybody who just wants to donate and support the cause. We love doing this. And so it'd be fun to kind of like do it better, get some equipment, do it, get to maybe fly guests in or go to talk to guests eventually. That'd be the dream, or something like that. Something big where people can actually come and have a good time talking to us. There's a lot of alumni out there, and we're trying to just reach as many as we can. So that'd be
what
great.
We're really asking for donations for is to buy out an island and just have adult Sizzler and nothing but the guests.
That's
right?
really it. That's all it is.
But that's just an idea of ping ponging around. But
absolutely. So with that, Omar, gracias, amigo. Muchas gracias, man. It is so, we are blessed to have you here on this thing, and we got to have you back on for sure. Thank you so much for being here and for your time, man. Thank you.
Grateful to be here. Love you guys, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. My name is Andres Gamboa, and my co-host Nick Taverdi, and this has been Omar Iribe. Muchas gracias. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Adios.